People always tell you that isolation is peaceful, that getting away from the city, the noise, and the people is good for the soul. I used to believe that too, until the winter of 2018. My name is Elias, and what I'm about to tell you happened in a remote cabin about 20 miles outside of Blackwood Pines, Oregon. It's been years, but I still sleep with the lights on. It was mid-November. My uncle had asked me to look after his cabin while he was overseas for a month. He knew I was going through a rough patch, just lost my job, broke up with my girlfriend, and he thought some solitude would help me clear my head. The cabin was beautiful, structurally speaking. Heavy timber, a massive stone fireplace, and floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out into the dense pine forest. The only downside was that the nearest neighbor was 5 miles down a dirt road that turned into a mudslide when it rained. The first week was fine. I'd chopped wood, read books, and actually started to feel human again. But on the night of the 14th, the atmosphere changed. It started around 10 p.m. A storm had rolled in earlier that afternoon, knocking out the satellite internet, which was my only connection to the outside world. I still had landline service, but my cell reception was zero. I was sitting in the living room, reading by the light of the fire, when I heard it. At first, I thought it was the wind whistling through a crack in the window frame. It was high-pitched and rhythmic, but then I stopped reading and listened closer. It wasn't the wind, it was a tune. Someone was whistling Yankee Doodle. My stomach dropped. I was miles from anyone. No hikers, no campers, especially not in a storm at 10 at night. I walked to the massive glass sliding door that faced the backyard and peered out. All I could see was my own reflection and the pitch-black void of the forest beyond the porch light's reach. The whistling stopped. I told myself I was imagining things. Cabin fever, right? I went to the kitchen to get a glass of water. The kitchen had a small window above the sink that looked out toward the driveway. As I was filling my glass, the motion sensor floodlight above the garage suddenly clicked on. I froze. That light was sensitive, but it usually took a deer or a bear to trip it. I slowly leaned over the sink to look out. The driveway was empty. Rain was coming down in sheets, illuminated by the harsh white floodlight. I watched for about a minute, waiting for a raccoon or something to scurry away. Nothing. Just as the light timed out and clicked off, plunging the driveway back into darkness, I saw it. Or rather, I thought I saw it. For a split second, right as the light died, a silhouette seemed to detach itself from the tree line and take a step forward. I backed away from the window, my heart hammering against my ribs. Calm down, Elias, I thought. It's just shadows and rain. I went back to the living room and checked that the front door was locked. It was. The deadbolt was engaged. I checked the back door, locked. I even grabbed a heavy iron poker from the fireplace just in case. An hour passed. The rain grew heavier. I had managed to convince myself that the silhouette was a trick of the light. I put on some old DVDs to drown out the silence. Then the power went out. It wasn't a flicker, it was a hard cut. The cabin plunged into darkness, save for the dying embers in the fireplace. I sat there in the dark, gripping the fire poker, my ears straining for any sound. Thump. A heavy, wet sound, like a boot hitting the wooden deck of the back porch. My breath hitched in my throat. I stared at the glass doors. Even in the darkness, the glass was slightly lighter than the room because of the moonlight struggling through the clouds. Thump, thump, thump. Footsteps, heavy, deliberate footsteps walking slowly across the deck. They weren't trying to be quiet. They stopped right in front of the glass door. I was paralyzed. I knew that if I moved, they would see me. I was sitting on the couch, maybe 10 feet from the glass door. I prayed the reflection from the outside would hide me. Then, a beam of light cut through the room. A flashlight beam swept across the floor, then up the walls, and finally it landed on me. I was blinded, shielding my eyes. "Nice place you got here, Elias," a voice rasped from outside. It was a man's voice, deep, gravelly, and terrifyingly calm. He knew my name. Adrenaline finally kicked in. I rolled off the couch and scrambled behind the kitchen island just as the sound of the door handle rattled and echoed through the cabin. "Come on, Elias, open up. It's cold out here." The rattling became violent. The glass shook in its frame. I knew that lock wouldn't hold forever. I needed to get to the landline in the hallway, but that meant exposing myself. I crawled on my hands and knees, the fire poker dragging silently on the rug. The flashlight beam was dancing around the living room now, searching for me. "I know you're alone, Elias. Your uncle isn't coming back for weeks." How did he know? I reached to the guest bedroom at the back of the house. It had a small window that opened out to the side yard, near the woodpile. It was a tight squeeze, but I could fit. I locked the bedroom door and wedged a chair under the handle. As I was fumbling with the window latch, I heard the loudest sound I have ever heard in my life. He had broken the sliding door. The wind and rain howled into the house, but underneath it, I heard the crunch of boots on broken glass. Whistling. He started whistling again, that same cheerful Yankee Doodle tune, echoing through the house, getting louder as he walked down the hallway toward the bedroom. I got the window open. The cold air hit my face. I scrambled head first, tumbling into the mud outside. I didn't care about the pain. I got up and sprinted. I didn't run down the driveway. That's where he'd expect me to go. I ran straight into the woods. The darkness was absolute. Branches whipped my face, tearing my skin. I slipped and fell constantly in the mud, but I kept moving. I ran for what felt like hours, but was probably only 20 minutes. I found a hollowed-out area beneath the roots of a massive fallen oak tree and squeezed myself in. I covered myself with wet leaves and mud, trying to stop my shivering. I lay there for hours. Every rustle of a leaf, every snap of a twig sounded like him. Around 3 a.m., I saw a flashlight beam cutting through the trees about 50 yards away. The whistling floated on the wind, drifting in and out. He was out there. He was looking for me. I held my breath until my lungs burned. The light swept over my hiding spot once, then moved on. The whistling eventually faded into the distance. I didn't move until the sun came up. When I finally hiked to the main road and flagged down a passing truck, I was hypothermic and covered in blood from scratches. The driver took me to the police station in Blackwood Pines. The police went to the cabin. The sliding door was shattered, the landlines were cut, my clothes were slashed to ribbons in the closet. But the scariest part, they found a sleeping bag and food wrappers in the crawl space underneath the cabin. The food wrappers were dated from 3 days prior. He hadn't just arrived that night. He had been living under the floorboards for 3 days, listening to me, watching me through the cracks, waiting for the storm to cover the noise of his entry. They never caught him, but sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet, I swear I can hear a faint, cheerful whistling coming from the street outside, and I know he's still out there, looking for the one that got away.